Shabbat Shalom. We're ready to start, and I'm Janet Rogalski. I'm delighted to be with you this evening. I'm honored to be leading services with Kol Zimra and Andrea Lee. Our opening song tonight is Hine Ma Tov, which you'll find on page 128. I'd like to call on Jody Hess, representing the Board of Trustees, for some announcements.
Shabbat Shalom. I am Jody Hess.
And now we all know that.
Yeah. My voice is loud enough. Representing the Board of Trustees, I know it's for the
Live stream.
world. Welcome you to Temple this evening. Our Kiddush tonight is in loving memory of Aaron Dalgen from Linda Dalgen Duda and Steve Duda. Celebrate the first night of Passover with your Temple family on Wednesday, April 1st at 5:30. The reservation deadline has been extended to Monday at noon by email only. So if you'd like to come and you have not signed up, please email Lynn by noon on Monday. Torah Today with Rabbi Delson is Saturday, April 11th at 9:30. Everyone is welcome to join in a lively discussion on the weekly Torah portion. Bagels and coffee are served. Join us on April 12th at 3 p.m. for the BGSU concert at the Temple. Enjoy an afternoon of beautiful music performed by talented music students of BGSU and meet the performers at a reception following the concert. Everyone is welcome. Bring a friend. Don't miss the biggest party of the season, Beauty and the Feast, on April 26th. Enjoy an exhibit of beautiful photography by members of our Jewish community, savor a feast of imaginative cuisine, and be a part of historical Jewish community photographs. All of this free thanks to the generosity of sponsors. Call the office to make your reservation by April 7th. Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you, Jody. I'd like to call on Jody and Marshall Goldstein to do the Shabbat candles. You'll find the pages 120 and 121 with the blessings. Mike. Mm-hmm.
Here, I'll let you do the Hebrew and I'll light the candles.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness remind us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our own day, be among those who kindle light. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat.
turn to page 2. And let's read together. We are called unto life, destiny uncertain. Yet we offer thanks for what we know, for health and healing, for labor and repose, for renewal of beauty in earth and sky, for that blend of human holy which inspires compassion, and for hope, eternal promising light, for life, for health, for hope, for beautiful, bountiful blessing. All praise to the source of being. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekor Nefesh Kol Chai. Now our song for Shabbat, Lecha Dodi, on page 138. Before the last verse, verse 9, if you are able, we stand and face the door. Lecha Dodi, page 138. Now for something a little bit different. On page 144, you'll find the Chatzi Kaddish. But We very rarely read it in English. We sing it, we say it, but sometimes we don't know what we're singing or saying. So this evening, if you look at the bottom of the page, let's read it together in English. On page 144, exalted and hallowed be God's great name in the world which God created, according to plan. May God's majesty be revealed in the days of our lifetime and the life of all Israel, speedily, imminently, to which we say, Amen. Blessed be God's great name to all eternity. Blessed, praised, honored, exalted, extolled, glorified, adored, and lauded be the name of the Holy Blessed One, beyond all earthly words and songs of blessing, praise, and comfort, to which we say, Amen. Please rise for the Baruch Hu on page 146. On the bottom of page 148, we read together, Blessed are you, Adonai our God, ruler of the universe, who speaks the evening into being, skillfully opens the gates, thoughtfully alters the time and changes the seasons, and arranges the stars in their heavenly courses according to plan. You are creator of day and night, rolling light away from darkness and darkness from light, transforming day into night and distinguishing one from the other. Adonai Tzevaot is your name. Ever-living God, may you reign continually over us into eternity. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings on evening. Baruch atah Adonai HaMoreh. On the next page, we sing Ahavat Olam.
Oh
page 151. Torah is what God has revealed to us and what we discern of God, ideas and ideals, laws and mitzvot, our religious heritage. It unfolds our memories of Abraham and Sarah, of Moses and Miriam and the prophets. It is legislation and explanation, allowing questions that challenge, answers that inspire, all a quest for meaning. It is our way of life, a path for our souls, and the design for a better world. The next page. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto, Please be seated and turn on the next page to the Ve'ahavta. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'kol levavecha v'kol me'odecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'eleh asher anochi mitzavacha hayom al levavecha vishinantam livanecha v'dibarta bam b'shiftecha b'veitecha uv'leftecha v'aderech uv'shokbecha uv'kumecha ukshartam le'ot al yadecha v'hayu totafot bein einecha uftaftam al mezuzot beitecha uvisharecha leman tiskaru va'asitem et kol mitzvotai tem kedoshim le'ohem Ahani Adonai Elohechem Asher hotzeitechem me'eretz Mitzrayim lihiot lachem le'Elohim Ani Adonai Elohechem. We read at the bottom, you shall love Adonai your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. Take to heart these instructions which I give you today. Press them upon your children. Recite them when you sit at home and when you are away, when you lie down and when you get up. Bind them as a sign on your hand and let them serve as a symbol on your forehead. Bind them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. Thus you shall remember to observe all my commandments and to be holy to your God. I am Adonai your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your God. I am Adonai your God. Adonai Elohim Emet. On the next page, Micha Mocha. I'm sorry, that's not right. It's on page 158, 2 pages. On page 159, we read, "Sing the song of men and women joined in understanding and respect, the song of God's miracles and earth protected and cherished, a gift for our children and the generations to come. The song of a land once ravaged by war, now quiet and content. The soldiers home, to leave no more, if only. The song of a world redeemed, the song of peace." On page 161, "Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace and rise up waiting to do your will. Baruch atah Adonai, hapareis suchat shalom leinu." Please, we're singing Vishamru on page 162. Please rise for the tefillah on page 164. Adonai sitatai tiftar ufi agitahilatecha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Eloheinu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel Elohei Leah El Hagadol Hagibor V'Hanara El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim V'Konei Hakol V'Zocher Hastei Avot V'Imahot Umevi Geula Livnei V'neihem L'man Shemo Ve'ahava Melech Ozer Moshiach U'Magen Baruch atah Adonai Magen Avraham Ezrat Sarah Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai Mechayeh HaKol HaTorah L'Noshiach Mashiach HaRuach U'Morid HaGashem מקלקל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא עולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומידו מלך, מלך ממי ומקיים, ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה לחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, קדושים היום הלוך הסלע. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש. You are holy, your name is holy, and those who are holy praise you every day. Blessed are you, Adonai, the holy God. Baruch atah Adonai ha'el hakadosh. On page 174, Ritzeh. Please be seated. I'm reading on page 177. When we behold your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and stars that you set in place, what are we humans that you are mindful of us? We mortals that you take note of us. You made us little less than divine, adorned us with glory and majesty. You gave us dominion over your handiwork, laying the world at our feet. How majestic is your name throughout the earth. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha, ulecha ne'eh lehodot. We read together on the top of page 179. Grant us peace, your most precious gift, O eternal source of peace, and give us the will to proclaim its message to all the peoples of the earth. Bless our country as a safeguard of peace, its advocate among the nations. May contentment reign within our borders, health and happiness within our homes. Strengthen the bonds of friendship and fellowship among all the inhabitants of every land. Plant virtue in every soul, and may the love of your name hallow every home and every heart. Praised are you, Eternal One, who blesses our people with peace. Baruch atah Adonai, Hamvarech et Amo Yisrael, Ba Shalom. We've reached the point in our service where we want to think about all of those in our community, our congregation, our world, who need healing in body, mind, and spirit. In our congregation this week, those names which we are mentioning are Jeff Began, Jan Dolgen, Deborah Dolan, Kyle Ford, Peter Gray, Jason Masters, Phil Mentee, Justin Present, and Sarah Taub. If you have a name that you would like to mention, please feel free to do it now.
Linda Farrell.
Our prayer, I'm sorry? Our prayer for healing, the Misha Berach, is on page 371. Let's take a time for some silent reflection. I love clothes. Shopping for them makes me very happy. And shopping does not necessarily mean buying, nor does it mean purchasing all new things all the time. In some cases, it's the thrill of the hunt. I love to have the proper clothes for the right occasion. I don't mean that I want to be formally dressed or even dressed up. I'm perfectly comfortable in jeans and sweats, and usually those are the right clothes. But I do love clothes. When I am wearing the right clothes for the right occasion, it makes me feel like I can do my best in whatever the situation is. For example, I'm a member of Kol Zimra. I usually would be sitting there. And we wear all black when we sing. Tonight, however, I have the privilege of leading services. What to do? Well, I compromised. I know I'm not alone in the belief that the right clothes for the right occasion is what you should do. Whether you're willing to publicly admit it or not, I'm guessing those of you, or many of you sitting here, feel the same way. It has been a thought that has been stated through time in many literary sources. Although, quote, clothes make the man, in this case, it's about men, but I'm sure it also applies to women, it seems like a glib ad pitch made for an advertising agency's fast-paced campaign, maybe by Don Draper from Mad Men. But the proverb's implication is that people will judge you by the clothes you wear, and it has quite an impressive literary background. Many people mistakenly attribute it to Mark Twain, who himself made quite a fashion statement by wearing only white suits late in his career. Others suggest the author of the quote was Tom Wolfe, who also began wearing white suits exclusively, but he did it early in his career. However, Tom Wolfe is the source for this. Clothes make the man. Naked people have little or no influence on society. What Twain wrote is that, quote, without his clothes, a man would be nothing at all. That the clothes do not merely make the man. The clothes are the man. That without them, he is a cipher, a vacancy, a nobody, a nothing. There is no power without clothes. Close quote. Wow, that's pretty harsh. I would say that's very harsh. Clothes are also identifiers of profession and place. For example, different cultures use clothing to express themselves. Traditional clothing can symbolize history, culture, and identity. Different designs, colors, and patterns can tell an incredible story, show unity, celebrate important events, and preserve cultural heritage. From the Indian sari, to the Japanese kimono, to the Guatemalan traje, and Scottish kilts, different cultures use clothing as a means of expression. For example, if you know the intricacies of traje, you know where the heritage of someone from Guatemala really is. Uniforms serve a similar purpose. A white lab coat or scrubs usually identifies the wearer as having some connection to the medical field. Coveralls and a hard hat may show that the wearer is part of the construction field. Law enforcement and the military all have very specific uniforms. Each uniform may set expectations for the wearer. The Torah portion this week, Tzav, which is Leviticus 6 through 8, talks about that. In summary, it includes the description of the 5 sacrifices that the priests are to be performing, limitations on them on the consumptions of meat, details about the ordination of Aaron and his sons as priests, and the preparation of the tabernacle as a holy place. Details about the ordination of Aaron and his sons as priests give particular instructions about the appropriate clothing of the Kohanim, or the holy priests. They are to wear appropriate clothing. In this case, appropriate clothing is very important. Each part of what a high priest was to wear was designed for dignity and honor. These garments included a breastpiece, an ephod, which is like an apron type of vest, a blue robe, embroidered sash, turban, a gold-plated headpiece that goes over the turban, a tunic, linen undergarments, and everything pure. Detailed descriptions are available for all of these things if you really want to look this up. While we no longer have high priests, we are all familiar with something that carries forth the tradition of those garments. According to Rabbi Ephrat Zeren Zohar, sometime after the destruction of the Second Temple, rabbis began to dress the Torah to reflect the vestments of the high priest. Let's take a look. And I thank Jane Pettigene and Susan Pocock for helping. This is really heavy with all these things on it. Do you want to just stand there? Okay. So, the breastplate, which we don't often see on our Torahs, but this is one of the temple's breastplates, among other things because it's heavy. It's at that time something that was adorned by 12 gems representing the 12 tribes of Israel. Here we have the 10 Commandments and other ornaments. The Torah crowns, this time on the top of the two rollers individually, often a real crown, and there's one in the showcase there that sits on top of the rollers, and that mimics the golden diadem that the high priest wore on his forehead over the turban that I mentioned. The Torah mantle, in this particular case, it's an embroidered cloth representing, not in these colors for this particular Torah scroll, but in others, the embroidery, and it represents the blue and white robe worn by the priest. The Torah sash, which is going to be kind of hard for me to open, but what holds together the sash that you see on the Torah scrolls, which holds the parchment together, and that basically mimics the sash of the priest's garments. And on the top of here, we have bells, because on the hem of the garment of the high priest of Israel, all the bells were there, and that was to indicate that the high priest was entering the Holy of Holies. So while we don't have high priests anymore, we certainly have the representation in every Torah scroll that we look at. Thank you very much. The fully dressed Torah is a way to remember the high priest, for whom clothes really did make the man. But who was the first man who was made by clothes? It was Aaron, brother to Moses, whose ordination as high priest is also described in Tzav, along with descriptions of sacrificial procedures and other things. Aaron was motioned to step forward. Moses washes and dresses him as God commands. Moses consecrates the tabernacle with oil, which he then sprinkles on Aaron's head and that of Aaron's sons, who also are priests. Aaron is a pretty big deal. Through time, there have been many interpretations and reactions to Aaron as the high priest and how his, life went. In a book called Unscrolled, which is pretty cool actually, Unscrolled, 54 artists and writers wrestle with the Torah, Rachel Levin, executive director of the Steven Spielberg Righteous Persons Foundation, has an interesting interpretation of tzav based on her family. And I'd like to read a little bit of it for you. Not the whole thing. I am only a few lines into the Torah portion. Each of these 54 writers and artists was assigned a portion of the Torah. So, I am only a few lines into the Torah portion, that is tzav, and my eyes have already glazed over. Burnt offerings, linen raiment with linen breeches, vestments, and all that. The details are exhausting, and I have yet to reach verse 7. I think of stopping, but I've been assigned to write about this, and I am at my core the dutiful daughter of a rabbi, a follower of directions. So I begin again, and that is when I noticed him. Kindred, responsible, older sibling. It is Aaron, the brother called to speak to Pharaoh for Moses, the one left to deal with a bunch of complaining Israelites when his younger sibling climbed up the mountain for 40 days. Here he has been given a new task. He is to become a priest. Tzav, I now see, is Aaron's instruction manual, a 97-verse to-do list dictated by God to Moses. Yet Aaron does not complain once. In fact, throughout the entire Torah portion, Aaron does not utter a single word. I am irritated for him. As kids, my sisters and I promised one another we would never become rabbis. Being a rabbi's daughter has taken its toll on us. The seemingly endless things. I complained, but I also understood that this job of a modern priest required offerings to be made morning and evening, that when our portion was the leftovers, we could not be picky. My father, who shares his Hebrew name with Moses, not Aaron, was bound to his duties, but not so easily compliant. He chafed at being told what to do. He had his own creative approach to the rabbinate, and his job is interpreting traditions in a way that was relevant and less about how things should be done. This meant that at a young age, I already knew about disgruntled synagogue presidents, split board votes, and what it meant to leave a synagogue with half the congregation to start your own. These old memories returned as I read about Aaron's new job description, and I felt suddenly that this time someone must speak on Aaron's behalf, must say what he himself cannot say. Wait, God, I call this out. I object. This new duty may be what is needed for the people, but what about for Aaron? What of his children, his sons, who are also being forced to become priests? I have read ahead and know how the story will end. 2 of Aaron's sons will get too close to the fire when making an offering, and they become an offering consumed by flame. And yet years later, I am in Jerusalem at a dinner party, sitting at one end of a meticulously set table with 30 other guests. I suddenly notice a woman staring at me. She calls out, "Are you Martin Levin's daughter?" "Yes," I nod, "I am." Knife to wine glass, she silences the other conversations. "Listen," she says, "I have a story to tell." The story is of her son, who is mentally disabled, and how one morning many years ago in a synagogue, a rabbi gave her son a spur-of-the-moment bar mitzvah, something she had never thought would be possible. The rabbi called him up to the Torah and then led the congregation in dancing so joyously that it spilled out into the street. The congregation was celebrating her son, welcoming him as a full member of the congregation and a member of the community. "I will never forget what your father did for my family," she said. Suddenly she's crying and I'm crying. I have seen through the years how rabbis have special access to people because they are present when people are at their joyous, their most vulnerable, their most pained, their most in need of hope. My Father knows that in these moments there is possibility, and that has always been enough for him. I whisper through the letters of the text of Tzav, "Was that enough for you, Aaron?" And I wait. Have you ever been present in situations where others are at their most joyous, their most vulnerable, their most pained, or their most in need of hope? In those moments, there probably was possibility. And so I ask you, was that enough for you? Shabbat Shalom. And this really is a cool book if anybody's interested in looking at it. You'll find the Aleinu on page 586. Please rise. On the top of page 591, we'll read, "May we gain wisdom in our lives, overflowing like a river with understanding. Love each of us for the peace we bring to others. May our deeds exceed our speech, and may we never lift up our hand but to conquer fear and doubt and despair. Rise up like the sun, cause light to go forth over all the lands between the seas, and light up the universe with joy of wholeness, freedom, and of peace." To lose someone you love is to alter your life forever. The pain stops, there are new people, but the gap never closes. This hole in your heart is the shape of the one you lost. No one else can fill the gap. This evening, we remember those whose recent deaths in the past 30 days are Ilana Waters, Dr. Mayor Butch Weinstein, Judy Landis, Melvin Ginsberg, and Sandra Cohen. We're also remembering this evening Alan S. Becker, Mervyn Berenson, Hilda Binzer, Mac Carlin, Shirley Dulgen, Aaron Dulgen, Charlene Edelman, Max H. Elias, Arnold S. Feldstein, Joseph G. Gluck, Samuel Greengrass, George Joseph Gross, Angela F. Hirsch, Lori Katz, Emily Ern H. Krowitz, Barry Lieber, Isidore Odesky, Matthew Oken, Sarah Sally Porras, Melvin Powder, Alexander Raymond, Julian Roberts, Selma Shore, Shirley Kaufman Silverblatt, Linda Southers, Russell Stroll, Leslie E. Thal, Norman Thal, and Lillian Weinstein. Are there other names that we should mention this evening? Any others? The Kaddish is on page 598. Will you please rise? Yitkadal v'yishkadash shnei rabbav ve'alma divrah yurtei v'yamlit malchutei v'chayevon v'yomechon uv'chayei dekol beit Yisrael ba'agala v'zman karev v'imru amen. Yehei shnei rabbav mevarak le'olam u'le'amayah. Yitbarak v'yishtabak v'yitbahar v'yitroman v'yitnaseh. V'yithadar, v'yithalev, v'yithalal, shemei tekudashah berechu, le'elam min kol berchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechemata, damiram me'alma, imru amen. Yehei shalom rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'kol Yisrael, imru amen. Osei shalom imrumav, huya asei shalom. May their memory always be for a blessing. Please be seated. Our closing song tonight is Adon Olam on page 625. thank Cole Zimra, Andrea Lee, my helpers Jane Pettigene and Susan Pocat. Please join us in the hall for Kiddush and Motzi. Shabbat Shalom. And we'll all be singing Kiddush and Motzi because we don't have anybody.